everybody. Gina Minyard here. It's 12 o'clock in Atlanta, Georgia, and here on this Thursday, and I'm doing a live class here called TLC Thursdays. So my computer's over here, which you can see. It's the best place for internet. So I have better internet connection, which is great. But of course, my camera's over here, so that's why I'm going a little bit back and forth with where I'm looking, because I want to see if you're chatting, right? If you've said hello, or you want to say hello, or if you have any questions. Let me know you're joining live if you're here, and if you have something you want to work on. This class setup is for I put in the description, tune up and refine alignment, and work with skillful strengthening and stretching. And that's yoga, but I think sometimes in our yoga practice, regular, more kind of flowing practice, or trying to just do more poses, we're not always, we often don't have the nuanced relationship of alignment that we can have when we try to slow things down, and really learn in a kind of broken down kind of way. So often I describe this process as tuning up the body, tuning up the instrument. And we want to be able to play the instrument well and enjoy playing the instrument, if you will. But we all know that along with playing an instrument comes needing to tune the instrument so that then when you play it, it makes the most harmonious sound possible. So, all right, so we'll get started. This is with calf smashing. And just again, I'll peek at the screen here periodically. So if you are online and you want to say hello, do that. If you have something you want to ask about, or to, questions or comments as we go, please feel free. So calf smashing. Roll up that blanket, put it behind your knees, and sit down on that. Get some good myofascial release through hamstrings and calves, and it even opens up your feet and all the way up the back line of the body. It can even relax your brain. I know that seems like a big thing, but there's the fascia is all connected, and there's a thick, this is just a little factoid, a thick covering over your brain called the dura mater. And when that can be tight, and how to release that is actually releasing calves and hamstrings. So something to consider. Many benefits of this. So yes, tuning in. It's a metaphor we can think of. Okay. So I've got a message from somebody who's trying to find me. So not sure what to say. Tips on how to find people on Facebook Live if you didn't already catch it on the feed. Anyhow, so tuning the instrument. If we're making this metaphor, like, what does it feel like when our instrument is out of tune, right? Sorry, give me 1 second. Okay. So, okay. So, sorry, I was trying to have someone get online. She wants to watch. That's a good thing. Tuning the instrument, when we're out of tune, that might feel like tension in the body, of course. Even some, more than tension, some aches and pains, just even outside of yoga, of course. Instrument not tuned can also include our minds being, our nervous system being out of balance, right? That there's a a dissonant energy even in our perception. In our yoga poses, it's like I've been doing this for a long time, teaching yoga, practicing yoga, and it's like at some moment it's more about just the sensations of stretch or strengthening muscles. That's of course what's happening in our practice. But when the body is lined up, the body truly is an instrument, and when there's a proper relationship and harmony to all the parts. Whether you're doing a simple posture or yes, maybe working towards a more advanced posture, they're more than just the physical sensations. There can be a sense of, like a resonance, something more happening, something resonating out from your form because of the connections you're making with all the parts. That maybe an inner experience of, clarity, expansion. That's called the sattvic state. This harmonious state that even someone watching you, if they were watching your practice, would register that as well. So it's a beautiful thing to be working with, and to bring that beautiful harmony into the world more than dissonance. So of course we're all trying to be. We are good people, and there's so many ways to express that. But I think so much going on. Hey, Eugene. So much going on the level of this what we're lining up with and expressing. So that's one way I think about alignment and what we're doing in yoga. So you can move your calf smash roll back one more time to another spot, and that's something you can kind of move your way through. We'll sit here for another minute or so. So this work and this way of practicing to me is on a spectrum. It's like you can work to tune the instrument just for its own sake, right? So you can just tune up the body and feel that greater resonance, like in the simpler postures, and let that be, therapeutic, healing, get all the good things from that. Or it's the same alignment work, the same thing needed for, yes, if you are interested in a yoga practice that is the exploration of bigger, more challenging, more advanced poses. It's the same work, and you have to, especially then, be tuned, because that's when there's a greater danger for injury if something's out of alignment, out of tune, right? If we're working in that way. So we'll explore that. I'll try to build on what we did before. So take a seat here. If you've been watching the past couple weeks, the first week we worked on the feet a lot and up into the hips. How that connected into the low back. Last week we spent more time on the trunk and the rib cage and how that needed to come into connection there, a little bit into the shoulders and the neck. I think today we'll move up a little more into the shoulders and neck, and just so we have this kind of full body situation. But we'll also do a full body tune-up, as we always do, to kind of get things going, but maybe exploring that a little bit more. All right. It's not too late to ask questions or to just say hello. All right, so meanwhile, take a seat. I'm sitting on my blanket roll now, and some of you may need to sit higher. I'll show from this side. This is a posture, and this is where it starts. If we begin and we're sitting and we're not on a support and we're sitting like this, we're out of alignment, out of tune. Whether you're aware of that or not, that's all you've known. It's like we only know what we've already known, and maybe we don't know what being more in tune feels like yet. But feel what happens as you sit high enough to draw the sit bones back more, so let the knees be either at hip height or slightly lower. And maybe you need 2 or 3 blankets. Go for it. And so that frees up your low back. That'll also free up your shoulders. See what happens when you're rounded forward. The shoulders are rounded forward. It's not just your low back that's rounded. You can't do anything with your shoulders from here, really. So even the shoulders free up just from sitting. The more balanced curve in the low spine, stretching all the way up through the neck and the head, and just do your best to find your way here. This is not an easy pose, ironically, it's what it's called, easy pose, but we try to sit well here, and then after our time, then this maybe gets easier, and we check in with what being in tune feels like. So you can soften your gaze or close your eyes. Take a few moments to notice your breath, just noticing it. The breath, of course, is part of our body because it's a wind instrument, so there's breath moving in and out. The breath will reflect already, whatever state you're in, whether you're feeling already pretty in tune and harmonious or not, right, is what it is. And so we begin by gently inviting the breath to lengthen and to deepen. not forcing that, just make that easy, but just, and as we move through our practice, that'll happen more on its own in a natural way. We don't have to, we never want to force the breath, but just inviting it to begin with, a little deeper, a little wider, a little smoother, a little more even, and beginning in that way to seek out a greater harmony, body and mind and breath, and we'll keep exploring that, seeking that out as we move through our practice. And feeling, yes, the postures themselves affect the breath, and they all move in the end circles together. So bring your hands to touch at the heart. To me, this very technical work is so much yoga. It's not boring, it's not dry. What a glorious thing to tune this body that you live in, to find your way into a greater resonance and harmony, body and mind. So we'll open with the sound of one Om. You can listen or join in. Inhale fully. Bow your head to your heart. Lower your hands to your thighs. Lift your head, open your eyes. Okay. So come on up to hands and knees. So the past couple weeks, and you can find all these videos on my Facebook page. I also have a YouTube page. I'll post it in the comments that I've been putting all my Facebook videos on YouTube. So it's just easier to find all in one place. But I've been doing various different things for the feet to start with. So here's another thing you can try. For your feet, to get the feet opened up a little bit more. Calf smashing does that. But then here, just reach a foot behind you, press down into the ball of the big toe and the ball of the big toe, just push back so you get a little more of a stretch. The calf, resist the stretch, just passively pressing back, but push to the ball of the foot, almost like you're trying to lift up a little bit and then push back and down. You can also do this in down dog. If down dog's an easy, familiar pose for you, if you want to just come into down dog and pedal it out, that's fine. I'm sort of doing this pose just as a simpler posture. Those of you maybe not as comfortable in down dog yet, but you could just press down through one heel and the other there. So press your big toes down, ball the big toe down, sitting back, pressing the heel back. Okay, so come up to hands and knees then. So we did, I'm going to turn totally the other way here. You may want to have a block or two, if you have to, for this next thing, for foot smashing. So we did calf smashing. Here's foot smashing. So you then put one foot on top of the other foot, just right in the center of the foot, and then sit down on that. So, you know, for sometimes the knees are an obstacle here. If you can't sit back for your knees, just do what we did last week. You can squeeze your foot and twist it around a little bit. So notice here, I'm kind of in the center of the foot. The reason why I have the blocks is if you want to lean forward and kind of ease off of it a little bit, that's fine. You know, otherwise you can just sit back here. So the center of my foot on the top of the other foot, the center of the other foot, and it's like you have this little pointy bone at the top of one foot, and that is a massage instrument here. So you're pressing and wiggling, and you can even move then to another spot on your foot. I actually like to lift up the knee of the foot that I'm sitting on, and that certainly increases the sensation. So you can always ease out of this or add more as you wish. Just kind of changing the positions, using that foot to kind of, again, work into all the way down to the toes. So it's one way of opening up the foot. Let's try the other side. So the foot on top of the other foot, I'll turn back this way since you've seen it. And yeah, blocks if you need extra support. You're just sitting one foot on top of the other. Again, option two, I like to lean and lift that knee up, and it just adds a little more stretch and opening up of that foot. So it's good to open up the feet. Again, calf smashing does that, but it just awakens the awareness that we are working towards and getting connected, our whole body connected. The feet are a huge, huge part of that. So even though we're going to work a little more on shoulders and neck today, we'll start down on our feet. Okay, so from there, come up to table pose, and then Again, either a down dog, if that's a familiar one for you, or just push back again, just feel the difference there. One leg straight, ball the foot pressing to the heel. Switch it out. Opening it up. Okay. So from there, see if you can do both feet like this, toes tucked under, sit back on your heels. And that's, again, some of that's too much on the knees. You can sit on a block, or or you can come up and just kind of push down, like you're trying to sit down, but see how it gets the toes to stretch again. So you can, if you can sit all the way down, though, great. And let that just open up your feet. Center here. Again, if knees are permitting you to be here, you may find that it's easier to move your sit bones back and find your center than it was to open your legs. And that's just a sign, you're sitting cross legs, that maybe the hips are quite tight, no problem, but just here, often it's just easier. And you might be sitting on a block, supported posture that way. Okay, so come up to table and point your feet back, and now just give this nice little smack down. After that, just loosen the feet up. Then you can even lift your feet up and kind of scrunch your toes, flare your toes, make little circles with your ankles, both directions. Okay. So then come onto your back. So laying on the floor is a great way to get the core, the body lined up, the bones tuned up, if you will, because the floor gives this incredible feedback to line things up. When we're standing up in space, it's incredible how much gravity pulls on us. We kind of are in our habitual sort of slouchy patterns, and it's hard to even find sometimes where center is. So feet on the floor, hips on the floor. Here in neutral spine, there should be a little space between the floor and the low back. That's that natural curve of the spine, just like when you're sitting on the blanket and you pull your sit bones back and you curve your low back in. So you can always see it. Maybe put your hand under your low back. Another way to measure that, and we'll practice that here today, is to place your hands, your thumbs on your navel, and then your fingers right on your pubic bone, which is the bone at the front of the pelvis, two bones really, at the front of the pelvis, where the pelvis comes together. And then the hands just kind of rest, your palms kind of on the hip points on the side, right? And so you make this little triangle, right? And then you rock it out a couple times. Go ahead and rock the low back all the way to the floor and lift your hips up a little bit. So that's called a posterior tilt of the pelvis, and then go really far to anterior, down, and so the back arches a lot. Do that a few times, forward and back, and just through the full range of motion, and we're getting our spines warmed up with that, the movement of the pelvis warmed up, core muscles working. So neutral is the place in the middle, where when you come to neutral, more or less the thumbs and the pubic bone are going to be level, floor to ceiling, right? Level like this. And sometimes it's hard to sense where that is, but a lot of folks are a little too tucked under. They push their pubic bone up to the sky. And sometimes we pull back like that to really activate the core. Fine. But neutral is where navel and pubic bone are more level. And you can sort of feel to where that is. And so for me, it's like, yeah, I've got a big curve in my low back there. But then still within that, we want to be strong and active in the front. So with that, just feel where that is. Take a breath and just start to tighten your core around that. Cinching around, you can try this breath, inhaling through your nose, exhaling through your teeth like this. It's like you're hissing and pushing the breath out. And that will make you use your deepest core muscle, transverse abdominis, which wraps all the way around your spine, even to the back. So you might even start to feel, so it wraps your trunk and onto the spine. You might even feel some muscles there. It's like you're shrink wrapping around the spine, which is great. The different muscle there, multifidus, and wrapping around and pulling it tight, even to the front, like a seam. There's a seam that goes to the front here. So shrink wrap, tighten around this neutral spine. Just really get where that all comes together. So if you're tightening a belt around the waist, you're going to feel it all the way down. You want to find it at least. You may not feel it yet, but you want to try to find it in the lower part, right between the hip points. The upper part, kind of like you're trying to pull the curve of those lower ribs together, and then it's definitely around the waist. So when I do this, I'm feeling my back. I'm feeling my low back a lot, but that's strengthening, right? So again, it even brings online these the muscles like a zipper that move up your spine, the multifidus. Okay, so one more breath here. And then just relax it all, soften. Take your arms out in a T shape. Separate your feet to the edges of the mat. And lower both knees to the right. And when we lower the knees to the right for windshield wiper, what we're not doing is just laying everything down and flopping. That can actually destabilize your pelvis. But instead, from feet to hips, as you take your knees to the right, stay strong, like you're active, connected, lowering the knees with strength. And so this one is pushed, the right one's pushing up to the ceiling, and both are pushing up to the ceiling. They're resisting the collapse, right? So even as you're lowering them down. And turn your belly back to the left. Try to pull the ribs back more on the left side. And then from there, you have that relationship of ribs back and the shoulder blades coming into, the left shoulder blade into that. And just being able to stretch it out in front of that left hip. All right, come back up to center with those knees, both knees over to the left, not flopping, never flopping. So strong from feet to hips and lowering the knees with resistance and control. Maybe they don't go very far, it's fine. And pull your ribs back on the right. So use that same strong muscle group, pull back. Also you're activating, of course, some of your twist muscles more. And notice here again, as those ribs come back, pull that right shoulder blade into that. We looked at that last week a lot. And that's important for the shoulders as much as just align the whole posture here. Okay, bring those knees back up. And then just feet back to hips. So you can give yourself a little hug here, knees a little wider, and stretch out a little more. Okay. Okay, and here's another one of my favorites. We've done this, I think, every week. Bring your legs out. Actually, back up. Let's do that. We'll do that in a moment. Feet on the floor, hips on the floor. And this time, press your hands to the fronts of your thighs. So we did this low back curve, but now the neutral spine tightening and tightening that same way, maybe exhaling out through your teeth. But now I do want you to go past neutral and pull back. Minimize just rocking your pelvis, because it's possible to lay your back on the floor without actually using your core muscles. That's not it. Push against your thighs if you're trying to keep the hips heavy, and then against that resistance, pulling back. And I'm trying to pull back so much that you really even more deeply activate. Maybe you curl up a little bit, chest and head up to get the ribs back. Then lift your feet up off the floor and bring the hands to the fronts of the thighs, pushing forward and up to get this abdominal bracing. Pulling out the low belly, pulling out your waist, breathing, lengthening the spine, even as you're pulling back, maybe a little farther than neutral. You can do it either way. You could be really pulling back, or you could be more at neutral spine and tightening in that same way, just challenging it the same way. I think both are really important strengths to have. All right, we'll rest down from there. We just want to be articulate and mindful of the spine. We don't only tuck under, right? That's a lot of people have learned that. It's like, to stabilize, you must flatten your back. That's not true. It's like we want to be really stable and neutral, but we also want to be able to pull our core so much that we get that strength front to back. But also neutral is where we stand well in posture, right? And sit well. So it's like we want to be strong everywhere. Okay, walk your legs out long. And so this is, again, a favorite I do often because it's so about tuning the instrument. So you can have your arms on the floor by your sides, walk the shoulder blades a little more underneath you. And so work from those feet, spread your toes, and press into the backs of the legs. Turn the inner thighs towards the floor. Watch my low back when I do that. As I turn my inner thighs towards the floor, the low back arches more. Great. I want that. There is a direct relationship. We say thigh bones govern the low back. So as I press my thighs down, I want to actually fortify that low back curve, but then keep that strong. Then I'm going to pull my belly in, my navel back, my ribs back, not flat to the floor, because I can't, because my thighs are pressing so far down. They're keeping my low back away from the floor. I'm pulling back and even tightening my hips, hip muscles to support that. And this is like you standing up with neutral spine, standing well. This is a lot of work. Right, so ribs in strong. All right, so from here, keep it all happening. Lift your right leg with control, bend the leg up towards you, interlace your fingers, behind the thigh, push into your hands. So again, this is about building up this core strength and limbs in relationship to that. That's what tunes the instrument. So stretching the leg towards straight, but only as much as you're not, see, tight hamstrings, attach right here, and if your leg is tight, it's going to pull your pelvis under this way, and then you've lost the tuning, right? So only straighten the leg as much as you can, and you'll get an honest, I sometimes call it the honest hamstring stretch, and also keeping your core balanced. So bend the knee, push the arms into the floor with control, reach that leg slowly back and down, strong from your center, and then bend with same control, that left leg up, pulling it to center, and in the same way, interlace your fingers around that thigh. Push into your hands and go towards straight with that leg. So the right thigh pressing down, staying strong, keeping that low back in its natural curve. But as you firm your abdomen, that left hip, you might feel a lengthening to that curve. That's great, but not to where it just collapses back to the floor passively. So working all these actions that are about the tuning actions for your instrument. Okay. Bend the knee, press the arms to the floor, reach that leg back out. And from there, bring the legs up and you can give yourself a little hug. You can rock it out a little bit side to side. I know we said we're working on shoulders and neck, and here we are working on legs and hips and low back. And obviously that's so important. That's where we build up from. Again, we can't really get to the neck without being aligned below it. So take the knees a little wider then, and bring your hands to those shins. Push into your hands and pull the knees out towards your shoulders. So pushing into your hands is about activating the muscles again. So you're not just passively flopping and stretching. Pushing into the hands, so you feel maybe a tone in the hamstrings, inner thighs maybe a little bit, and then pull back with that tone. Again, low back's a little off the floor, tighten the center, within your spine. All right, so then bring the knees up higher again, and this time, grab on behind your legs and carefully flex upwards. If you need to put your feet on the floor, that's fine. Here again, you're pulling strongly back. Notice the neck here. What you don't want to do is like crack the head way up. Almost like you can take hands behind the head if that's better. But if possible, I want you to grab onto your legs, and so that'll help you pull up more. And this stretches out your back more, gets those ribs back more, which we also again need for shoulders and neck. You can slide your throat back, lengthen through the back of your skull, and even think about lengthening through the tailbone forward enough so you get super long here. So you can roll to one side, or you can rock and roll up to a seat. I'm just sit it for a moment here. All right. So laying some good groundwork for where we're going. So let's stand up and take your block between the shins. I would love squeezing a block I have on a medium width, a few inches below the knees, because it just, again, anchors us down to the feet and the lower legs. And let's try to recreate what we just did. So squeeze the block. And you want to use your strong feet, press into the balls of the feet, the big toes, squeeze the shins in, and you also want to squeeze the shins forward. What does that mean? Okay, so the knees tend to lock back. We don't want that to happen. So squeeze into the middle. We also, squeezing forward means you're actually, again, pushing into the ball of the foot to activate the calf. So forward, and you can rock that a couple times, and then against the shins, squeezing in and moving forward, turn the inner thighs back. This is a kind of review. We've worked on this more in my previous videos. You can always go check those out, the TLC Thursdays. And then once you get thighs back, belly in again, ribs in, and not to where this is a tucked pelvis, right? Not that far. Find the balance. And then hopefully a greater sense of harmony. You might be working hard here with harmony and connection. So inner thighs back, again, belly strong, ribs strong. Shoulder blades gliding onto that. Even the throat back, right? So feel where that is. All right, so then inhale, circle the arms up and overhead. And let's just do that a few times, just kind of warming up the shoulders a little bit more. Exhale, lower the arms down, making circles. So inhale out to the side at shoulder height biceps, palms turn up and make that fluid. This gets that rotation happening in the shoulders. Lowering down at shoulder height, the palms turn back down. And where there's like a little range of that movement that you make the turn in. As you're passing through that line. Notice as I'm moving here, it's like I'm not moving my rib cage at all. I'm staying so strong here. It's like that's not moving, and I'm just stretching up and down. And that's called trunk stabilization, right? So just like you worked your legs without moving your core, here's you moving your arms without moving your core. Okay. So from here, one more time through in that way. And then next time you lower the arms, bend your your knees rather, and hands on the tops of your thighs. So also one of my favorites called downhill skier. So you're using your feet, again, press big toes down, squeeze your shins in. As you push against your thighs, it's similar to what we did laying on our back. And I do want you to pull your belly and your ribs in, but not so much that you flatten back this way, right? So again, strong legs, sit bones back, hips strong, and then pull in the front to back at the low belly, the ribs, and also at the throat. Really feel where that is. So push against the thighs to traction. So draw your rib cage out of the hips, keep reaching down. At the same time, though, through the tail, the thighs. It's not tough, just to reach and up to the top of the head. So good for your low back. It's tractioning the spine. If you have your neck lined up, they're really good for the neck too. Okay, so then stand back up again, reach up, stretch up. Exhale and lower the arms down. Okay, so remove the block, shake it off. And so we'll start to do a little more, again, into the upper body as promised. So make your way onto your back. I want to give you another, like the neck needs strengthening in a lot of different ways. Okay, so lay on your back and put the block between your thighs in the same way. We're going to again have this neutral spine, so not pulled back flat to the floor, but feet on the floor, hips on the floor, that low back in its natural curve, and tone your front to back without flattening, but again, with that exhale, tightening around the center. And you want to think about lengthening through the neck and lengthening just a little more through the base of the skull. Not to where you're totally flat, chin way down, but lengthening through the neck evenly, especially a little through the base of the skull. And then from there, carefully lift your head like a 0.5 millimeter off the ground. Like you're trying to just let someone slide a piece of paper under the back of your neck. And you have to take your chin a little further down. You're not lifting up like this, right? Chin a little down towards the chest, reach to the back of the skull and through the top of the head. Okay, lower down and rest. We don't want to do a ton of that or like hold that for a super long amount of time. But the idea of that is you can lift your head up. There's these big, thick muscles at the side of the neck here, sternocleidomastoids. Like they're the one that lifts your heads up. These muscles, you can see it on my neck, very bulky. What we're trying to do, though, those are going to fire as you're trying to get deeper in there, working these deeper, more subtle muscles that are closer to your neck. Closer to your spine and your neck. So you're going to press into the feet, hips on the floor, tighten the abdomen, so that one more time. So then lifting, keeping the back of the neck skull really lengthening. Lift your head barely, and chin a little bit down, elongate through the back of the skull, through the top of the head. If you can see, it's like more subtle. These muscles are not as bulging this way. They're a little smoother, and I really feel that deep down in my neck. Also, I'm feeling it because I'm lower your head down. So I'm talking. That was weird, trying to talk while doing that neck exercise. I felt my speech muscles getting a workout too. Okay, great. So then you can either roll to one side or you can do this again. You can flex upwards and now you have that same connection. Throat back of the neck long. You have that. And just try to sit up for a moment. You're just keeping your knees bent like this. And now can you sit up? Belly and ribs in. And here's that neck. Serious. Back like this. Not flat. If you have a flat neck, you've got to take your throat back and then lift like back and up to the base, go lift the chin just a little bit. But this is really skillful work for your spine and up into your neck. Okay, then come on around and down to onto your belly. So then also we just need some very solid strengthening for the spinal muscles, the shoulder blades, the back of the neck. Right, so reach your legs long and strong, like we practiced. Think about turning the inner thighs. This time they'll roll up to the ceiling. You're laying on your belly, right? So turn the inner thighs up, squeeze your shins in, and then you're laying on your front. You can make a little pillow on your head to start with your arms. Toning in at your belly, your front ribs, your throat back. And even tighten the glutes here. Not trying to tug, but tighten. And keep reaching your legs, extending through your spine. So then take your hands on the floor by your chest. We're not lifting up, but just position them there for a moment. Notice, again, we will start to lift a little bit. Slide your throat back first. Elongate through the back of the skull to create length, and then maybe just a little bit of lift in the chin. And then float the hands off the floor. What I see a lot in my yoga classes is, and everybody does this, people just like crank their heads back when they're lifting. The neck is super mobile. So it's like the people move into their poses with their necks. Yeah, it looks awful, doesn't it? One of my teachers, fabulous Desiree Rumbaugh, find her on Facebook, and everywhere. She's amazing. She said once, I really got it. She said, use your neck to move your head versus using your head to move your neck, right? So controlling the whole movement from really the lower down in the spine and the shoulder blades, and then the head just follows. I think of it sometimes, so curl up. Let's actually hold for a second, sorry. Squeeze your shoulder blades. I could really hold this for, we should time me one day. How long can I hold this? So lower down and rest. I'm not showing off. I've just done a lot of work on my body to really train these very little muscles that, very subtle muscles of support that for me then it's like, my effort has been streamlined into the deepest places of support. So I rarely feel like I'm working very hard, especially in these simpler postures. Yes, if I'm doing an arm balance or doing, a strong standing pose, but not even then, not really, so it's streamlined. That's about 20 years though of tuning my instrument. So yeah, I could hold that for a long time. So what I want you guys to feel, what I was going to say, one more thing is, I often think of that I have a thread, a golden thread from my chin to my chest to my chin. So they only go together. So start again, stretch your legs out nice and long, tone your belly, pull your waistline back. And again, sliding the throat back means you're pulling in with those muscles. You can draw your chin down slightly to lengthen the back of the skull. But then, start to lift up a little bit more. And this is, starting to strengthen the extensor muscles of the spine. We all need this if we're kind of hunched forward often. We usually are, right, sitting, working at our desks. So you can squeeze elbows back and towards your ribs and work in the shoulder blades more. But again, if I'm lifting up, I'm not just going to lift my head like this. If my face is lifting, my chest is lifting. Because again, there's a thread here. So I have to lift my chest to lift my chin. Never this. Not even a little. You will never see me do this in my yoga. It's like I only lift my chest to lift my head. Okay, lower down the wrist. And that brings so much control. It's something over the past few years I've learned more deeply from studying with Desiree Rumbaugh. She's amazing. But I feel so in my core. So this throat back, let's do this. Push back to a child's pose now. Toes touching, knees apart. Often what's happening in the throat is or not happening, I should say. You'll see that everywhere. So child's pose, sit hips to heels, tone your core, stretch out your back. Maybe your head needs to be on a block or your folded arms, no worries. Take a breath or two here. Okay, so then let's sit up. Come on up to feet pointing back, and you can sit on a block, a couple blocks, whatever you need there. So I just want you to feel this one thing. So you're seeing me from the side here. And again, a lot of folks are like this. Their heads are forward. That's called like text neck, right? Or worse. And when that happens, you can even see it. See my belly pooches forward too. So when I take my throat back and you watch how my low belly also lifts, it's totally connected. So though we spend some time working feet and hips and thighs back, and we always need to do that, going up and up and up. For me, it's often until I get this last piece, my throat back and up, and I'm balanced there, it's like, okay, then I'm really at my center. And you see me do like a big pose, like a big back bend, you'll see my neck is like totally in control. And that keeps my low back feeling better too, instead of just throwing my head around. So that's what we're practicing here. Okay, so let's add in here, so a little more work in the shoulders. So we started to do this rotational work overhead. So let's do some, have your block handy. If you have a block, this next one isn't totally necessary to have a block. But if you have one, just have it handy. And so take your arms out by your sides. And just start with, neutral spine, feet on the floor, hips on the floor, that little curve in the low back. But then here, really knit those ribs in and back like we did from standing. It's okay if you have to pop up a little bit like this to get there. Because that's, again, a lot of us have our rib cage as a skew. Last week we looked at that a lot. So pull your ribs back and then draw from hands to shoulder blades like gloves. So you're watching me pull in. Maybe you can't see it that well, but I'm pulling my shoulder blades a little more together, even as I'm not letting my ribs pop up. So ribs back and then shoulder blades in. And then from the shoulder blades, I'm going to turn my biceps and my palms more up. So I'm not just turning up with my lower arms, but nothing really happens up here. That's why you draw this unified glove into the shoulders, and then turning up more, right? As far as that goes for you. It doesn't have to be a big turn, but just draw a little bit more there. So then we did the windshield wipers. Do that, actually just keep your finger tips wet. So then lower both knees to the left, just a little bit. And notice when you go to the left, it's like, what's happening in the shoulder? So easy just to pop up there. So though, yes, we're moving the legs, and yes, we're going to feel the core muscles working. Your job in this next sequence is to keep your ribs back and to keep that right shoulder blade really pulled in. Even as you take, the farther the knees go, the harder you have to work, and you have to almost screw in tighter. So I say screw in because you rotate, or it's a rotation, right? So then try the other side, both knees just a little bit to the left, and then to the right. And again, it's very easy for this left shoulder to pop up. So you're working on keeping your ribs back and that left shoulder blade pulling in there. And you have to pull in more the farther your knees go. Okay, so bring it up to center. So you're welcome to keep doing that version. That's going to be more gentle and just focusing on the shoulders. Do a few times each side. Otherwise, take your block between your shins on the narrow side this time. Squeeze. You can keep your heels either close to your hips, or you can have your more challenging your shins, 90-degree angles here. So spread your toes, squeeze the block. And again, low back going to be a little off the foot. Pull your ribs in super tight and draw into the shoulder blades, hands to shoulders like gloves, and from shoulder blades, turn your biceps and palms a little more up, deepening that ab rotation. This strengthens your rotator cuff. So then, lower the knees slowly to the left, keep breathing smoothly. Maybe just go halfway down this first time. And again, same thing, pull your ribs more back on the right, pulling tighter that right shoulder. See how much I'm working that right shoulder to the floor and tighter. And then come back up. With the inhale, both knees to the right. Pull your left ribs back, that left shoulder blade into the back of the heart. And the farther you go, the harder you have to work to stay connected. And that's how it's just strengthening the rotator cuff. So come back up to center, keep breathing smoothly, maybe 2 more times each side. Maybe you start to go a little further down. Still low back, it's not rounding, stay in its curve, but pull those ribs back so strong. Lengthen through your spine, maybe you're going further with those knees. Back up to center, nice and easy. And keep breathing, knees to the right. And I like to just keep breathing, and you could coordinate breath and movement here, but it's more about just staying with your breath. Stay with your breath and work with connection, that mindful connection. Hands to shoulder blades, ribs back, shoulder blade tip, screwing in more. Come back up, one more time each side, or not, right? Go back to a gentler version, or maybe you've had enough. You're gonna rest. You're also, of course, working your core muscles here, so that's great. Okay. And one more time. Pull those ribs in on the right, on the left rather, pull the left shoulder blade in. Okay, come on up. All right, you did it. Release from there, and just take soles of feet together, your knees apart. Go for a little more of a back bend here, so you can press into your elbows and find those tightening muscles around your waist, and just move a wave up your spine, and just allow you actually get more clarity in your hips when you're more in a back bend here. Definitely not tucking your pelvis here, very hard on the hips. But just take a few breaths, and you worked hard, so now just breathe and feel what you've done. Okay, lots of awareness, I hope. All right, so bring the knees back up, go from now this back bend shape, scoot out a little further, so back to a neutral spine, and take your legs up. One hand on top of each knee, just tractioning like we did before. Push straight down to the backs of the hips, elongate in 2 directions, bring a little tone in the front. Notice the neck here, you don't have to lift off the floor, but in that same connected neck engagement, and elongating from under the ribs in 2 directions, tailbone, top of head. All right, either roll to one side or help yourself up here. And now I'm gonna show you what, this is I think one of my favorite releases for the shoulders, the neck actually. So I'm gonna take my shirt off, even though it's chilly in here today. I want you to be able to see my shoulder blades. So I'm gonna come closer to the camera. Okay. Oh yeah, I can see, oh cool. I'm gonna turn this way, you can see the light. Oh wow, this is a great shot. I can see myself on the screen, and I can see the light from the skylights coming down on my back. So this is awesome. Now this position requires relatively flexible hamstrings. So if you're tighter, just go wider in your feet, right? Bend your knees more, because I want you to tip your hips enough to where your spine just kind of cascades down. Tone your abdomen. I'm going to stay with my feet hips width. Pull your belly in, your ribs in, and then just hanging forward with your spine. Now, sometimes here you see this in class. I don't love this. I honestly do not love this position where you hug the elbows and hang down, because it's just everything's falling down. You want your spine to fall down, but here there's this. Can you see how scrunched I get around my neck with my shoulder blades? So what if instead, can't really see my fingers here, but I have my fingertips on the floor, not my palms. I'll show it from the back further as well too, but I can press. I'm going to push down to my fingertips. Remember those gloves. I'm going to hang down with my spine. I'm going to draw gloves up my arms, and I'm going to move my shoulder blades up the back. See what happened to my neck there? How long my neck got? So now I'm firing my lower trapezius, even those rhomboids a little bit, and that's allowing these upper traps, upper trapezius, and the levator scapula to relax. When you drop down this way, those muscles are getting congested and bunched up there. So I'm sliding up, and then I'm hanging my head, bobbing my head. This is traction. Here, the weight of your head is like a gift. Heavier the head, the better. Bobble and dangle instead of just dropping everything down like this. Right. So what I'm not doing, I'll turn this way. So when I slide my shoulder blades up the back, notice I'm not moving my spine. I'm not doing this. I see this a lot when I instruct people. They start to do this, chest up and head up, like they're trying to arch up. It's not that. That's spinal movement, right? So don't move your spine. Let your spine hang around forward, but just move your shoulder blades up the back. And here also you see the shoulder blades also go back this way, not to this. I often see people kind of locked out like this. Shoulder blades onto the back, up the back, hang your head down. Just one more time this way. That's also the shoulder blades coming around to the sides and a little bit up. Be very subtle with that. Hang your head down. Okay. So, all right. So that's, again, one of my favorite neck releases. And you come up carefully, and then I'll back up and just make sure. So you see the fingers, just same thing, but then fingertips like this. You actually are pushing down, but also suctioning up, not just hanging down the arms. Okay, so that seems like, again, simple enough. So just lower down the hands and knees. Simple enough, but that's quite complex. There's a lot going on there, and hard to articulate those subtle muscles in the back, in the shoulder blades. So give that a go. But that is the way to traction your neck. Just release the tension of the neck. One of my favorite ways. Okay, so then let's do one more thing for the neck, and then we're about done here. So sit up again on a block, maybe on a tall block like this, maybe on a less tall block, but that's okay for you. If it's okay on your knees, noticing my feet are pointed straight back. I'm not sickled like this, right? Feet straight back. And if that's too much, you can just sit with legs crossed if you need to. So then we'll stretch out the sides of the neck a little bit more, having done all of that. So sit bones back and apart, and draw on your belly, your ribs, your throat, right? In that same way, and all that same neutral spine you're practicing. And then lower your, I think I'm going to mirror you, your right ear towards your right shoulder, and there's that stretch to the side of the neck here. Those muscles get super tight. So to deepen this, option to reach your left hand out, just extending through, and that'll stretch a little more. Some of you can turn the arm bone in and carefully weave behind. That also gives the front of the shoulder, the inter rotation, a little bit of stretch. Though we mostly rotator cuff needs that real fortifying of the outer rotation for strength. And then the other hand can come optional, clasp, and then you get a little more, if that feels okay on your shoulder. You have all the options leading up. And then chin down, chin towards chest, perhaps. Don't roll your head behind your shoulder. That's not a safe movement for the neck. But forward and down is good, right? And you can also point your nose more towards the ceiling. You can make little circles upwards, and you'll find those tight spots for sure. Keep breathing. All right, bring your head back up and release from there. Pause. And then sitting up tall, yes, that throat back, even though you're going to go off center here in the neck. So other side, left ear towards left shoulder. Just stay there, making those movements, or option to reach that right hand out to the side, reaching through. Option to keep the head and arm bone back, but internally rotate and carefully bring it behind, maybe just a little bit, maybe across the other side, maybe taking that other hand and giving a little gentle pin. And then again, chin down, nose down, circling up. Just don't roll behind that shoulder. Lengthening through, breathing in, breathing out. And then chin back to chest, lower those arms by your sides. And lift the head back up and just feel where you are with that. So again, here, you can, let's actually go back to, let's try to go back to our first posture. You can still sit on the block, but let's cross the legs out in front. I like to sit on a triple fold blanket there. And just fold your legs in front, but in a way that, like we did at the beginning, take the sit bones back and apart. And there's that maybe a little more tip forward than you think. It's a good place to start, as opposed to definitely being tipped too far back, where we explore the tip of the pelvis forward and back. You want to ultimately find neutral, but it's good, I think, just tip a little more forward first, and then as you pull in at your belly, your front ribs, and your throat, you kind of find neutral there. You can even do the same measurement here, like we did earlier, and to see if you're balanced there. And then the neck and the shoulders, when the pelvis is more balanced, and just be easy, just kind of loosen it up and let the shoulder blades just float on the balanced rib cage, and there's hopefully just more of an ease there. This is what you've done. And you can just welcome your breath, noticing the breath here. Again, at first, maybe we noticed it was not resonant, not in that greater state of harmony, and just from the work we've done, breathing a little deeper, a little wider, just already more naturally, deepen that gently. And then the breath flowing out from there. Effectively meditating, you can say that this more harmonious state, body and mind, a tuned body is your tuned perception, your tuned awareness, and that's one way to understand the process of moving into meditation. That definitely supports that process. I teach the meditation style that I teach brings a whole other understanding to that. That's a topic for another day. But it's the nice sort of classical sequence of yoga lens. We feel that brings us just naturally into that's what you feel, a resonance. Your immediate self with a bigger energy. You feel your nervous system balanced. That's the sort of practical way we feel that. And the breath just naturally moves. And you're already in a more meditative state. And then if you want to close your eyes and travel inward on that, great. So from here, we'll take our rest. So come onto your back, standing well, sitting well, and laying on our backs well. What that means is, again, take a moment to stretch long. You want to get neutral pelvis here. So if you need to smooth the body flush downward, great, but we don't want to tuck and flatten. Sometimes people, they feel they're tight in their low back when they rest on their back. I would say before taking extra support, think about reaching your legs, even turning those inner thighs more down, believe it or not. Draw the important, big, huge breath through the sides, and then get those shoulder blades more underneath. And that tends to balance what is compressed in the back. We'll kind of draw it all the way, the low back, draw it more through, tractioning, and then let the rib cage settle back from there. And often that makes a big difference in how that feels. And then as we lay on our backs and settle in, we're just in this balance of the bones. If you need additional support, I would say put the blanket under your knees, like so. Rolled up nicely. And then that can just soften a little bit of the pressure in the back. I'm not such a fan of putting something under your thighs like this, because it just flattens out the low back and it kind of tucks the pelvis too much. Too much of a anterior tilt, which is a little bit more of posterior tilt. A little bit of a Band-Aid that doesn't address the underlying issue. Okay, so resting on your back, however you need to be comfortable. Continuing to feel this resonance, this being tuned up that you've established. And often when we rest, it's particularly sweet, right? Letting go of any remaining effort to just be. That resonance, that harmony, that is really already there ultimately. It's more a question of course, lining up with what's already there, revealing what's already there. Not as much as sometimes this kind of alignment work feels unnatural, like it goes against the habits of your body in a certain way. That is, eventually it reveals a deeper pattern that is already there, right? And that's a process. It's always a process. When we rest and in that effortless place, often, we have just a sense of things more than turn off your analytical mind and just be in what you're experiencing. The movement of the life force, the greater interconnectedness of all of your parts, 206 bones to bring into attunement. When we rest, we're allowing for the assimilation of these refined patterns. And rest at least for 2 minutes, I would say. But resting longer, there can be a deeper, obviously, release and unraveling of the nervous system, even a deeper layer of just a natural goodness and wholeness and flow, opening up from there. And so you may notice, though it wasn't a vigorous yoga practice, we didn't do any super challenging poses. But I did most of that with you, and I feel not worked out hardcore, right? But just worked and energized and connected, and you could take that into a more challenging yoga practice the next time you do it, or it's just going to support the rest of your daily activities. So I'm going to leave you all in your rest and let you linger longer if you'd like, as long as you like, right, at home where you are. So please continue, or if you're ready to come out, you can just gently roll to one side and sit back up again. If you want to shoot me a note, or please, again, just continue to rest. But I'll bring it to a close here. Thank you for joining, whether you're watching now or later, the recording. This is on Facebook, obviously, but I always post these videos to my YouTube page, like I said, so it's easier to find, and I'll put the link to that in the video so that you can go over there to see all of them listed. I can put them all in one playlist, so they'll all be there. Okay. So thank you. Keep well. Take good care. And blessings. Namaste.